Hi there, I'm Birgit O'Connor, and welcome to my studio. Today we're going to keep it really simple and fun, and we're going to paint some trees. Now, you can not have a landscape behind them or a sky, or you can just have them all in the forest like that. But my goal for you is to show you how you can add a landscape behind a little grove of trees and keep it really simple. So I think you're going to enjoy this. So let's get started and have some fun. Now for this lesson, I'm going to go ahead and use the back of an old painting, and I'll be using some painter's tape. If you want more control over the tear of your tape, what you could do is put your tape on your table, put a ruler down, and then tear your tape. Now, if you're comfortable using masking, you can go ahead and take a little bit of saran wrap and crunch it up, and then dip it into the masking fluid, and then start applying it to the white paper where you want some of those lighter leaves to be. And if you're not comfortable using masking, that's okay. Just leave it alone and use a lighter color. Now, if you're using masking, don't touch your painting until it is completely dry. Then when you're ready, let's go ahead and add your sky in the upper right-hand corner and go around the trees. And to avoid having any really hard lines, using a damp brush, just soften the edge of color. Using our lighter yellow golden color or whatever color you prefer, it could be green, dap on some of that lighter yellow green color to where we want those leaves to be. And to give the impression of a field, apply the color to the area where you want your meadow. Then let it completely dry. And why we want it dry is so the color doesn't blend and mingle and create a big mess. Then let's go ahead and add our hills using the same basic color as our sky, only in a slightly darker value, meaning less water and a little more color. Then to make our meadow more interesting, using the same basic idea with a slightly darker value, meaning more color, less water, let's use some more of the golden color, or it could be brown, or it could be a darker yellow, or we don't want to go too dark, just we're heading in that direction. We still want enough water in our water to color ratio so we can look through the transparent layer of our color. And if you want, you could even use a blue-gray combination. I like to use French ultramarine blue with a little burnt sienna mixed in, and I think that makes a very nice blue-gray color. If you don't have it, basically, it's a blue and a brown. Go ahead and just tap it in here and there. Don't overdo it, just a little bit, so we have a bit more depth. Now, before we put more leaves on there, let's remove the tape. Now, as you can see, I had some masking on this, and so I have these great big white blobs, and I don't really want that, but it's a really interesting way of reserving some of those lighter leaves. Using a new piece of saran wrap, I'm going to go ahead, dip that in my color blend, and then I'm going to go ahead and tap it on my paper. As you can see, it's not very interesting, and those giant blobs are now yellow blobs. So we need to break this up and make it more interesting. Then using a slightly different color, like a brown or a gold or a red, I want to go ahead and take a smaller brush and then tap the brush to allow some of those droplets to go into that yellow color on the paper and allow it to mingle. Now that may work well enough for you, but if it doesn't, don't be afraid to come back in with a brush and just gently go around your leaves and add a bit more color. Then let's go ahead and let this dry. Then once this is dry, I'm going to come back in with a smaller brush and start adding some grass. And all I'm going to do are just add a few brushstrokes. Now, if you notice, I'm going from the bottom up because I want more of a tapered edge. If I go from the top down, then the blade of grass is going to be on the bottom. I want the blade of grass to have a slight point to it, so it's from the bottom up. And I don't want all those little blades of grass to be distracting. So I can go ahead and mingle some different colors in here, more earth tones. And then I want to take a slightly damp brush and soften some of the edges of those brush strokes. Otherwise, it's going to look really stiff. And to add more depth in the field, I'll do the same thing. And then with a damp brush, just touch a few of the edges to give it more dimension. To break up those leaves again, I'm going to take some of those darker colors and just tap the brush and spatter a bit more color here. Now, I really don't need to do too much, but I do need a variety of color. Now, for any of those little white spaces that are left that I don't want, all I need to do is take a smaller brush and fill them in. Now, I could decide to leave it this way, or if I want more depth, or if I want to make this more interesting, I'm going to come back in with a slightly darker green and break the space up. Now, this is looking good, and I'm really happy with it. We didn't need to really do much, but the tree trunks look really stiff and straight. So to break them up, I want to add a shadow. Now, to make it easier for me to apply my shadow, I'm going to turn the paper and then keep the shadow on one side of every trunk. Then using that same idea, I'm going to add some of those smaller branches in the trees. That's going to be just enough to break up that big cluster of leaves on top. And before you do too much to it, put a mat on it, step back, and evaluate. And now you have a beautiful painting. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're inspired to create your own compositions and do some exciting paintings. They can be small, they can be narrow, they can be large. There's lots of things you can do with them. So until next time, have fun and happy painting.